Now let's head overseas to the United States and live to Austin Landis, reporter at Spectrum News DC. Let's begin with Afghanistan. They really are disturbing, troubling. You can substitute a number of words for what we're seeing in Kabul.
Yes, absolutely. And Tim, thank you for having me. I mean, the latest that we heard today is that there could be new security threats that are actually preventing Americans from getting out and getting to the airport. The U.S. Embassy issued a new warning today telling Americans they should not go to the airport due to those threats unless they get specific instructions to do so. And now we're hearing from officials that those threats could be from ISIS, from the Islamic State. We know that President Biden had a meeting with his team today, and they talked about efforts against ISIS. So it's a major complicating factor in combination with the images you're talking about, the chaos outside the airport, now these new threats. And we did get new numbers today. 2,500 Americans have been evacuated. That's the first time we've gotten a concrete number like that all week. But still, that's just a fraction of the Americans that are in the country. Some estimates as high as 10 to 15,000 people. And now these new security threats, the crowds outside the airport, it's quite complicated and dangerous on the ground now.
You hear Joe Biden and others saying who could have predicted that this would happen so quickly. You would think in 2021, when intelligence levels are through the roof, that someone would have.
Sure. And the president was asked about this yesterday. Does he have confidence in his intelligence team? And he said he still does. And he continues to defend his decision. He says there was no way to leave without chaos. He says there was no good time to leave. And his defense has really been that he doesn't want to keep American forces there when in a war that Afghans aren't willing to fight for themselves. So he basically has said there was no way to avoid this. There was no way to avoid this chaos. And the administration has said that they actually planned for this. It's unclear how much they planned for something like this, considering the chaos, the security threats, the Americans not able to get to the airport, the U.S. not offering them transportation to the airport. So the president, despite everything that we're seeing, has defended his decision to withdraw and actually defended how it was executed and everything that's playing out right now.
And in defence of Joe Biden, the current president, this is a historic decision. This decision was made by the previous administration to leave.
That's right. They set a May deadline, technically, in the past administration, and the president has cited that. He said that's one reason that they felt they had to leave. But the criticism has really been that was an arbitrary date, and if we weren't ready, if the U.S. wasn't ready to leave and they didn't have the security situation secured, the Afghan forces weren't ready, then why wasn't it done differently? And there's been criticism of the president on both sides from both political parties. Republicans obviously sharply criticizing him for withdrawing at all. Some and Democrats too, who have serious questions about this, and some of them have said they plan to hold hearings as early as next week and ask top administration officials what went wrong here. So despite the deadline, and there has been a defense of the administration, there's still a lot of questions about why it was rushed and why it was done in this way.
Austin, heading towards what we could define as a health war. And of course, it is being seen, this latest phase of the whole coronavirus drama, saga, story is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, particularly in the United States.
That's absolutely correct. The U.S. is definitely in the middle of another surge, approaching numbers that we saw last winter, which was one of the worst waves of cases, hospitalizations, deaths. We're seeing numbers close to that now. And like you said, it is in the states that have lower vaccination rates. Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, the southeastern United States, where fewer people are vaccinated. That's where hospitals are overwhelmed. That's where staff are overwhelmed, and they're really begging people to get vaccinated at this point. And a bit of good news there, more people are getting vaccinated. They seem to be taking notice of these worrisome trends. So in the past 3 days, there have been 1 million Americans vaccinated. every single day, or they've gotten a shot every single day. So that's 3 million people in the last 3 days, and we haven't seen that level of vaccinations in 2 months or so. So a bit of good news amid the surge that we're seeing.
Because schools are back and life is some way normalising in many parts of America. And look, we're not far away from winter again.
That's right. And the administration has been clear that they want schools back in session, for example, and they're trying to do everything they can. They're encouraging masks in schools. And then as we saw this week, they're now planning for booster shots in the fall. They're really pushing to get people prepared. Despite some criticism about booster shots and whether we really need them, they're saying we're planning for the fall and we're planning for the worst. That's what health officials said this week. They said, we don't want to be caught without a plan, because we have before in this pandemic, and we've seen how that turned out.
Absolutely. Austin, thank you so much for coming on the program. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.